Recording in progress.
All right, let me call to order the November 7th meeting of the Site Plan Technical Advisory Committee. I'm the acting chair today. Peter Stith is out. But we'll go through. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Get a motion for the October 3rd meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any comments or questions or changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, the first item for business is the request of the Pease Development Authority owner for property located at 360 Corporate Drive requesting construction of a three-story healthcare complex with approximately 52,000 gross floor area to allow space for up to 10 tenants, which include an ambulatory surgical center, imaging center, and plastic surgery center. The project includes 125 vehicle parking spaces, 2 loading docks, as well as associated paving, stormwater management, lighting, utilities, and landscaping. Said property is located on Assessor Map 315, Lot 5, and lies within the Airport Business Commercial District. Who's here to present this application?
Maybe myself.
Okay, thank you. Just come up. Give your name, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Kilberg. I'm with Apex Design Build, representing ATDG LLC. First thing I want to start off with is just thank you, everybody, for the meeting, and thank you for the feedback and the background in the last month and a half from everybody that has been involved. We've addressed any of the items that previously came up as part of the public hearing, so the drawing submitted definitely addressed those items. Happy to go through them as an itemized item, but I don't think, unless anybody wants to, that would be needed in this scenario.
Did you get the notes, the TAC comment notes?
Yes.
Do you want to go through just those? Do you
Yep.
want me to- I have a slideshow that was given to us for you.
I'm happy to go through the slideshow, but it may be a bit redundant.
It's your call.
Yeah.
It's your call.
Let's just go ahead and address.
Available if you want it.
Let's just go ahead and address the notes because the slideshow is a bit outdated versus the notes. There were 3 items that came through as part of the review comments. First one was please install signage along wetland buffer edge that indicates it's a no-mow or limited mowing zone. We're definitely happy to, incorporate those into the drawings and work with staff to get that coordinated. Absolutely. The second item would be what efforts were made to further protect the wetland. So during the initial planning phases with the PDA, this was addressed in terms of setbacks. And one of the requirements that the PDA requested was a construction fence along the wetland and the wetland buffer so that any and all construction ongoing on that site would be retained outside of the wetland buffer area. So that's been incorporated into the drawings already. Any other questions or concerns beyond that?
I have questions about that, but I'll let you finish going
Okay.
through these first.
And the last one was please provide an easement plan. So hoping to get some clarity overall on what was requested for an easement plan.
Okay. I don't know what the easement plan addressed. Whose comment was that? Trevor's. Trevor's comment? So in all of our site plan review submittals, we require an easement plan for whether there's right-of-ways on the property or easements to access utilities through the property. And we ask those be put on a separate plan. I guess it's just, you have some easements on the site in your site plan. It should be just called out into a separate plan.
Yeah, understandable. I know that in talking with Mike Mates from Pease, there is a blanket easement for Eversource as well as an agreement for maintenance with the city of Portsmouth for sewer and water from that standpoint. So that would kind of leave the gas and telecommunications. And what we would prefer to do in that situation is get the actual infrastructure underground and then replat at that point in time, because if you plat it now and show the easement now, let's say infield installation changes and due to construction you just don't know what you encounter underground, and then at that point you replat it. So what we would ask for is a condition as it relates to, let's say, certificate of occupancy in the building.
Well, it's something that we'd want to review as part of the planning board review process.
The easements are the same regardless of what you do with them. The easements should be, probably are in place right now, right? So maybe there's an as-built that comes along as a result of work that you do moving forward and you provide that additional plan, but the existing easement plan is just, it is what it is. What easements are there now, I think, is what you're
Yeah,
looking for.
we'd like to see what easements are out there on the site, so the planning board has full understanding of all the easements, and then we have that easement plan separated, so it's, you don't have to pick through the drawings to find them.
Yeah.
And then if you need an as-built after the fact, that's fine.
And you may wind up acquiring more easements as a result of your project, maybe not.
I can answer the question about existing easements. I'm Brian Jones with Allen & Major. We did include a existing conditions plan from Doucette Survey, and they obviously researched the property records, registry, and there are no easements recorded against the property.
Okay.
So there is a airport district boundary that's shown on the property. That's not technically an easement, but that's the only encumbrance that's currently on the property.
So the only easement then will be the access to water and sewer for the city?
No.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Mates. I'm Director of Engineering for the Pease Development Authority. As it relates to water and sewer at the Pease Trade Port, we have a municipal services agreement with the City of Portsmouth that allows them to service the sewer and the water anywhere on the Trade Port at any time. So it's basically already been established.
So that falls within the boundary of our agreement then? Is that your understanding too, Dave? Makes sense?
Yeah, specifically what they're talking about, what Trevor's talking about, is the plans show a electric line going over to the old hospital site next door.
Oh,
And the note says, basically what they're saying is that Eversource has an easement there already. I think that's what you're saying, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but the plan says connect underground electrical service to existing transformer, coordinate with a butter and utility provider, work on abutting property may require a construction easement. So that is the only easement I think is maybe necessary, and then if Eversource can show that they already have an easement for that transformer, then it probably is not necessary at all.
And to be honest, Eversource has done a site visit, so their construction team has gone out and done a site visit. We're waiting for feedback from them.
Yeah.
But that is a placeholder from that standpoint, because that feed may not actually happen in that manner whatsoever.
Yeah. So I would finalize that before a planning board appearance, just so you have something from Eversource saying that we're good.
That makes sense.
And just to clarify,
Other than that, there is no more easements. So
right. And just to clarify, we do have an agreement with Eversource, just like we have with the City of Portsmouth, not just, but similar, where they also have, the ability to go in on anyone's property and service their equipment.
okay. So I think part of this is a change in how we do things in the city versus PDA because of
The agreements.
you own the fee on all of it. So it's leased property, so. But if you can at least clarify that for the planning board and be ready to address it. I had a question about well, I guess I'll bring up this plan where I had a question. You show the wetland and you show, in your landscaping plan, which, let's see if I can find it here. The landscaping plan's pretty robust around the edges and different areas. The one area that I don't see anything detailed, except for maybe this note over here, is, and I think maybe this wraps around to loam and seed this whole area. Is that the plan? You're just going to loam and seed the area adjacent to the wetland and that buffer?
That's correct. So there's substantial topography differential, basically where the parking lot area is. So anything that fills in next to the parking lot area will have a specific seed blend. Some of those areas are called out not to be exactly loam and seed. There is a wildlife blend that's requested for those areas.
Conservation wildlife, yeah, that's in the shaded areas. I
Yep.
saw that, but in the grass between the buildings and the wetland, it's just lawn you're going to be putting. You're going to be mowing that? Like, it doesn't say anything about maintenance or what's going to happen in that area. And that's actually a functional buffer for that wetland. It'd be nice to see some plants, some shrubs, some other species. I don't know why the landscape plan doesn't address that at all.
So, like Jeff was saying, there's quite a bit of grade here. We're picking our site up,
Yep.
and right along that buffer line, is a retaining wall, so we're high and the wetland's low. There should only be, 18 inches of disturbance between the wall and the buffer. So
Right.
it's intended not to be maintained. It's not a mowed lawn, and it's not planted, it's just in its natural state.
So all I see here is a mowed lawn. Because this note right here, the only note that addresses it is loam and seed, all disturbed areas, which loam and seed to me means lawn.
That's fair, but the disturbed area would only be, like I said, at the bottom of the retaining wall, very narrow, say 18
Yeah,
inches.
I'm not concerned about the disturbance during construction. I'm more looking for a functional buffer. And if you said in there, no mowing, no maintenance at all, which probably isn't what you're going to want to do. You're probably going to want to have some maintenance. If you mowed it annually, maybe that would be better, but something that at least talks about how that area is going to be used and how it's going to be, maintained as a functional buffer, something that.
Which area specifically are we talking?
Yeah, I was going to say, are you referring,
So
Peter?
here's the wetland, and that, obviously, you're not going to do anything in there. And then this area here,
Okay, that's wooded,
And
and it
this
would
area
remain,
here
right, so that is wooded.
has
It remains
no-
wooded.
okay, well, it doesn't say that anywhere, and it doesn't show it, and there's definitely disturbance to parts of it, so just so you could,
There's no disturbance to any of that wetland buffer there. The only reference to loam and seed that I'm looking at on the drawings is actually at what would be the northwest corner
Right
of
here.
the parcel,
right here.
which is in the right-of-way there.
So if you look at the landscape, this is the landscape plan,
Correct.
and that's all white. And that's why I said that's the only reference I see, but what I'd like to see is what I don't want to happen is I don't say anything, and then in a year, we go in there, and you guys are mowing it right up to the edge of the wetland.
Right.
And that's not
That's a
what
fair
we want.
comment.
To remain undisturbed in its natural
Yeah, if
vegetative
you're going to
state.
leave it and not do anything with
Yep.
it, then say that on the
We
plan.
can, we can add a couple notes. I,
And then we
I
can
think what
enforce
the
that, or BDA can
architect
enforce
was
it.
trying, the landscape architect tries to depict that with their scallop tree line. That's, in her mind, that's wooded area to remain.
Right here, I see some scallop tree line, but I don't
If
see
you
anything
zoom in a
here.
little closer, it's
All the way around.
yeah, it's continuous. So in her
This
mind,
scallop?
that's,
Yeah.
yes,
That's all tree line.
just wooded, that to remain. But if
Well,
there's
then-
something we can add to make it more clear,
If you could put a note on there that says to remain natural, undisturbed,
yeah, for sure.
that would be good. Because that would be in the buffer, PDA's buffer as well, so they'd
Right.
want to know that too, I would think. Any other questions or comments?
Time to wake up, Dave.
Stay.
No other comments? Eric?
I had one comment. I can't remember how this was left. The sidewalk along International Drive, didn't we ask for that to go up to the next driveway? But I don't see that on the plan as
Nope.
going all the way up there.
You don't.
Okay.
You're talking at the northwest corner, correct?
Yeah, there.
Yep. Right here?
Yes. Rather than stopping it at the bound,
At the lot line.
bring it up to the next driveway.
Yeah, that could definitely be incorporated, without a doubt.
Okay, then I'll make that a condition. When the time comes.
And I know the tactile pads now, that's the pro-way requirement, but it's not enforceable yet.
Commercial driveways over a certain size, right?
Any driveway with a stop sign is supposed to have them.
Okay.
It's not yet required, but it is recommended best practice.
Yeah, I think we can definitely incorporate a tactile pad there.
Yeah, at each,
It makes no sense to not have a tactile pad.
yeah. So it would be the two there on International Drive and the driveway on Corporate Drive, and then where the sidewalk ends at that abutter's driveway. So you have to have a tactile pad at each one of those locations.
So tactile pads at all driveway crossings, basically?
Wherever there's a stop sign on the driveway, it's required.
Commercial driveways,
Commercial driveway.
big enough that they would have a stop sign and a stop bar and that type of thing, not residential driveways, not.
Right. On this site plan at the driveways. I'm just looking for
This is a
articulation for
fairly
the,
significant size
yeah,
To,
building.
to be clear, we have tactile pads located at each driveway.
okay.
So,
It's already shown on the plan?
yes,
What plan is that on?
that would be your site plan.
You'd have to find it on the details. It's pictorially, it's not shown. They're very small.
Yep.
And if I recall correctly, there was some back and forth too as to whether we want
So
them or
change of direction
don't
from
want
what
them.
we told you.
Yes.
But we're happy to do it.
But the,
Okay,
the
so we'll
rule
make it a-
changed since you've been starting to come to meetings, so that's what happened.
So we'll make it a
Been here so
stipulation.
long, the rule changed.
The feds changed the rules.
It's no problem.
Okay.
Probably happen again if you don't get an approval. too.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
Do we need to have a public,
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, if there's no more questions or comments, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody here speaking to, for, or against this project? Nope. Seeing no public comments, we can move on to any other questions or take a motion.
I will make a motion if it's appropriate.
Please.
I'll make a motion to send this on to the planning board for an approval with the one additional condition that the sidewalks the sidewalk on International get extended up to the neighbor's driveway as
And-
requested
Okay, the
previously.
extended to international. Could we also add the tactile pads at driveway and sidewalks, just so it's clear?
Yes.
And then that the,
The additional notes regarding the buffer
Yeah.
and the lack of clearing of vegetation.
please. Great. You guys got all that? Okay. We had a second, right? Did you second it? Maybe we didn't have a 2nd
I'll second it.
Okay. Now we have a second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All set. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item is new business. The request of the Islamic Society of the Seacoast Area owner for property located at 686 Maplewood Avenue, requesting site plan review approval for the construction of 6 single-family unit residential condominiums with associated paving, stormwater management, lighting, utilities, and landscaping. Said property is located on Assessor Map 220, Lot 90, and lies within the Single Residence B SRB district. Who's here to speak to this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Shagnon from Ammon Engineering. Haley Ward here to speak to this application. Also here with me is Maria
Highburn.
Pyburn from Tinberg Real Estate.
Great.
We're
The site plan here.
here for a workshop meeting, I believe, and this is our first technical advisory committee meeting, so I don't know if you want me to go through the plan set, talk about the project a little bit.
So this is a regular TAC meeting, so,
Yes.
That's right. He's saying he was here for.
oh, you were, I'm sorry.
do a
I thought you said
workshop.
we are here for a workshop.
No,
Sorry.
no.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I have the plan, and yeah, if you could go through it.
Okay, yep. So the cover sheet is self-explanatory. There's an existing conditions plan. This is the layout plan. The proposal is to construct 6 single-family condominium units at the site. It has some frontage, limited frontage on Maplewood Avenue, but enough to create a driveway to service the development. The site slopes from the rear or south towards Maplewood Avenue. There would be a common driveway constructed coming up and entrances into the units that would be set back enough so that extra parking could be obtained in the driveways before the units. There are 2-car garages in each of the units, and then at the top of the hill on the southerly end, there's 3 guest parking spaces. The next plan is a landscape plan. So there's some plantings that will occur along the edges, and at the entrance on Maplewood, there'll be sort of a well-landscaped entrance facilities. The next plan are the renderings. Carla Goodnight did the architectural work, so you have floor plans in the bottom left and rendered views of the site on the top, and then elevation views of the units on the bottom right. So they're drive-in slab on grade with 2 floors above, the second floor above being dormered. Next sheet is grading and erosion control, so the street will be sloping from south to Maplewood, the south side to Maplewood at a pretty consistent grade. And there'll be catch basins on the right side. As you look on page right of the driveway, it'll be sloped over. That drainage will be collected and brought down and then brought into an R-tank system to attenuate the peak flow. It'll come back out and then go down and connect to the drainage in Maplewood Avenue. The next sheet is a utility plan. There's going to be a sewer line with manholes, sewer main, and then the services will come into there. There's a same with the water, although we do have some comments about that we'll address. And underground electric will come to a transformer in the middle and then be redistributed as secondary. We're looking into gas, but I think the gas does not go that far up Maplewood. And then we have the usual detail sheets. So included in the submission is a trip generation analysis. The site is not going to generate a lot of trips, just 4 morning peak and 5 evening peak, based on the ITE trip generation rates. And we also have the green building statement from CJ Architects. If you want, I'll go into the comments.
Please.
So we received your comments, and we do want to go through those today, get some feedback. We did not prepare revised plans for the meeting because some of these comments we need to revisit, but we'll begin. The existing water stub sizes, it says to show them, and there's an 8-inch stub and a 2-inch water stub. So those will be highlighted. I thought we had highlighted them on the drawings. So we talked about repurposing the water services that were left there for the previous development when Maplewood Avenue was reconstructed. And we had noted that we would go back to the main and remove the water service. But the comment now is that the domestic line is capped and the line is off, so fill the existing valve box. Does that mean we don't have to go back to the main?
It means we don't want a hole on our new road. Yes.
Okay, yep. So we'll update that note. The next comment is to extend the hydrant stub that's there to around the first house and install the hydrant there, and then proceed with a 4-inch main for the home connections. And that is a good comment, as long as the fire department's okay with it.
Did you understand the comment?
I did.
Okay. So basically, we just want to limit the size of the big main so that for drinking water.
Yep.
So, and we were thinking, we didn't ask you guys, was that be better to have the hydrant there before you get to the first house. So if you're going to use the hydrant, it's right there before you get to the fire.
Right, well, we're going to lay in, right? So instead of going all the way down in the back, lay
Right.
reverse line. Yes, that makes sense. To me, it makes sense.
Okay.
These are all sprinklers as well.
Right. Which, because of no cul-de-sac, no turnaround.
So the only question I had, David, is about end of line. You want a flushing hydrant still at the end?
I honestly don't think you need one, because it's such a short section
Okay.
of the ductile iron, and you got 6 houses drinking off it, so you should be okay.
Okay. All right. The next comment is the city will need your standard leak valve and meter easement for the private water system, and we can work on that. Fire hydrant agreement for the fire hydrant, no problem. Ripley Dam on the sewer, no problem. Sewer manhole detail for the sewer manhole that replaces the 8-inch stub that was left for the single use, no problem. Some other detail requests. The next one is to provide a more robust landscape plan that includes planning schedule, and we will work with the landscape architect. Is there a specific comment or area that the committee sees needs more planting at this time?
That was my comment. I think we were just looking at, so there's a lot of the black pines sort of along the back edge, but sort of the lawn areas, what kind of seed mix is going to go in there, the landscaping around the front, and just if there's any irrigation plans or smart irrigation techniques that you're planning to use.
Yeah, and it looks like there's,
So-
I don't think there's anything, it's hard to see on this plan, but in the front of the, is there anything it looks like across the driveway, there's trees, but no smaller plants in the driveway areas or
In the front of the buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I can certainly add that. As far as irrigation goes, we would not be showing that on the plans. We would just submit that if irrigation is provided, that it would probably be designed at the time of installation, which is typical. Please consider solar for the single-family unit roofs. So it's not the perfect orientation for these roofs, but Chinburg Builders is not opposed to, if the individual buyer is thinking about solar, adding it to the project, but they would not propose it coming out of the gate. Please update Note 3 under General Conditions Notes on Sheet D1, where it states that the site shall be stabilized for the winter by October 15th. So that comment is a little, we need some explanation.
That was also mine. I just didn't know if that was outdated by now, or if you, or if
That's right out of the Green Book. So,
I just didn't know if it was for this past October, if you plan to do a specific date there, but
yep, that's
Standard.
generally every year. That's a general note from the Erosion Control Handbook that,
gotcha.
okay. Buildings must be constructed to highway noise standards. So this project does need a noise CUP,
Yeah.
and that will be applied for in the cycle here. Does it go directly to planning board, Peter, or
I
is?
think that one goes straight to planning board.
Okay.
The parking comes through TAP,
Yes.
but the noise one, I believe, goes directly to planning board.
Okay, so we'll be applying directly to planning board for that. In regard to Note 8 on the utility plan, identify properties that would be impacted. I believe that's a general note, so it's not to imply that other properties would be impacted. But just in there, I can take it out. I don't know whose comment that was. It doesn't mean that other properties are going to be impacted, but we want to make it clear to the contractor that they got to maintain utility services to abutting properties. So hopefully that explains. And Note 9, explain why that's consistent with DPW policy. Connections to the water main shall be constructed by the city of Portsmouth. I've understood that to be the policy. that the city prefers to do its own taps?
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay.
Where did that one go?
Certain size we do, but after that, anything big, we don't.
Gotcha.
You're not going to have any taps.
Maybe that
Um,
one. That.
You're using an existing stub.
For the water to go to the driveway, and then the 4-inch will be tapped for the buildings.
Yeah.
But those would be private taps. Oh, those would be city taps, because they're smaller, right? No?
Oh, this is a private main.
Private main.
Yep. So the city would want to witness the pressure testing of the system once
Yep.
you're done,
Okay,
but it's up to you to do all the connections.
okay. Okay, so we'll revise that note. What is the plan for the existing drain line, 678 Maplewood? So, I don't know, I wasn't aware there was a pipe. There was a pipe that headed that direction that was left as a stub,
Yeah.
and that was a part of the Maple Mahad site plan.
Yeah.
And so we're reusing that for the
Yeah.
last catch basin.
Agreed.
I don't think it was meant to go and service 678. I'm not sure.
I don't know either. I don't know whose comment that is, no one.
Okay.
Is it this one here?
The comment is, what is the plan for the existing drain line, 678 Maplewood?
I think it might be this drain line here. So what is the plan for that drain line?
Which drain line?
It's just a stub for their use that was installed by the city.
No, he's pointing to one on the west side.
Oh, that's the state's, that's the main drain for the highway.
Okay, so that's not on your property, so I don't know
Right.
who referred to this one, but
Yeah.
just trying to find it.
678 is to the right, though. It's the
Yeah,
building to the
right,
right,
right.
so. Okay, we'll follow up on that. Please provide an easement plan, so if the city's not going to need an easement for the water.
It says the city will need an easement for the water, for the leak detection, turning of valves, and metering.
Okay,
But it's going to be a private main,
okay.
no different from many of the other ones that we've done.
So you have a standard leak valve
Yes,
and
we
meter
do. It's a
easement?
blanket easement that
Yep.
just says we're allowed on the property for turning valves, doing meters, and occasionally looking for leaks.
Okay, and it's a blanket easement.
Yeah?
All right, so we don't really need a plan, we just need a note.
An easement.
John, you have another easement, is that
Deed.
overhead wire easement on that, on the bottom?
Yeah, on the property is bifurcated by a Eversource 35 kVA transmission line. That's an existing easement.
Existing easement, sure.
Yes.
I think that's, you're looking for an
Looking
existing,
for existing easements and new easements, basically a plan that shows all the easements is how we like to have it spelled out.
Okay, so the existing conditions plan shows the overhead easement with the book and page reference. And,
We typically ask for an easement plan that has all the easements. If you have a easement that's going to, I guess leak detection is just a deed, it's not even an
It's just a
easement.
deed.
So it's probably fine in this case that you didn't
just
do it,
one.
but-
Sometimes you have like
It
four or
just gets called out
five.
Yeah,
It's nice to have a
easements.
plan that
Understand.
shows.
Yeah, that's
okay,
fine.
yeah, where it's a blanket easement, it's going to say wherever the line is, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Please remove notes referencing and identifying delimited comment areas, no problem. We had talked at the workshop about that, so we wanted to show you that, but we'll take them off. Please provide more information on the retaining wall. So I have a markup showing the heights of the retaining wall. Just take one, pass it down.
So, and I think we went, back when this was a mosque site, we went through this a lot.
Yeah, we had a similar,
Was it Joe or who did
it's
that?
Doug Rosa.
So we're going to need an engineered plan for the wall because it's in very close proximity to your R tanks.
Yep,
So there's potential of quite a bit of hydraulic loading on the wall.
yep.
Kind of curious why the wall is so close to the R tanks on the east side too. There's room to move the wall a little bit and get them away from the R tanks for some safety.
Okay,
So that needs to be detailed and understood so that there's good, solid engineering behind the wall. So that if we have a big storm, the wall doesn't wash out.
Okay, yep.
I think the other concern is the height of the wall. It's not easily discernible how high it is, but it looks like it could be pretty tall and then has a fence on top.
So these heights go to a topping out of 8 feet, and there's a detail showing the fence because it needs fall protection. So that fence would be less than 4 feet.
So the wall will be 8 feet from the base of the wall? Or
Correct.
Topographic elevation? 8
Yes.
feet, so adjacent to the property at 678 will be 8 feet?
Well, it goes 1.5 and then 8 in the corner of the,
So it's
That property.
between 1 and 5 in the first run?
Yeah.
Then between 5 and 8 on this, okay.
correct.
And
Yeah,
then a 4-foot fence on top of that.
correct. Yeah, for fall protection. So, I mean, it leads into this the next comment, which excess of 6 feet, including fencing within the side or rear, would require a variance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's,
That's a planning comment. That's so a 6-foot wall that close to the property line, I think that's what they're saying. Then you need to show that it doesn't require a variance if it's that close to the property line.
Because it's a structure.
Because it's a structure, well, or a 6-foot fence too, right next to the property line.
so we'll get back to you. There are sections of the ordinance that talk about walls not being structures, when they are structures, when they're not structures,
Yep.
and it's a complicated issue that your ordinance addresses in a couple of different spaces, so we will,
This is a serious wall.
Yeah.
it is a serious wall, yeah.
I think
Yeah, it's
anything
right
over-
up- right
anything
up to
over
the
4
property
feet, you know, I mean, I think that zoning and the building code are on the same page regarding a wall becoming a structure when it exceeds 4 feet, and that goes to the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall, right? That's in the IBC. I thought we were in sync with that, so you know,
I think that there's that, when it turns into a structure, then it requires relief if it's too close to the side yard or whatever, this is the side yard setback or maybe the front yard setback. But the other issue is a fence, how close a fence can come to the property line depends on the height as well.
Right, and the fence part is that a 4-foot or less fence can be in the setback, but when you go to a 6-foot fence, you can't.
Right, so if a fence is on top of a wall,
Mm-hmm.
how tall is it?
It's 4 feet, it's a 4-foot fence.
the fence is the same height no matter
This is
what.
the discussion we
Right.
wanted to have.
Yeah, it's a
So-
discussion we got to have. And
Yeah.
then when you say a wall over 4 feet is a structure, your ordinance says in certain places the opposite, that walls are not structures. So we need to talk more about that
Yep, yep,
at the planning department level, if that's appropriate.
that's appropriate, yep.
Thank you.
We'll look at other examples.
Yeah, and I think the previous approved version of this did sort of utilize the same area of the lot at a higher grade because it drops off in that corner. And in order to take care of the drainage, we need to raise the grade.
But I would review that original plan set because, I mean, putting an R-tank system that requires stone all the way around it, directly adjacent to a retaining wall that requires stone,
Yep.
means that we could potentially be creating a situation where the water's blasting through the wall toward the neighbor.
Correct,
It's not detailed very, very, very carefully.
correct. It may require some stego wrapping of the R-tank system, and it's meant to be not an infiltration system, but a detention system.
Right.
Yep. Will there be an easement to construct and maintain the wall? We don't anticipate that. And then the next one, how does the drainage for the wall work? That's your question. We don't want to put a R-tank system that will bleed through the wall
Right.
at that location. Please update the landscape plan to match the site layout. We'll take care of that. Update parking calculations to reflect 10 parking spaces required, not 9. I think that's because we forgot the guest space, if
Yeah,
that,
I think so.
and we have more than enough parking, so that's not going
Yeah, I
to be
don't
an
think it's
issue.
going to be an issue.
Please provide more information on how the height of the new structures conform to the 35-foot requirement. And I believe that is existing grade and proposed grade now.
Now it's,
Definition.
right, the new definition.
And so I guess it's probably, what we'll have to do is return with average grade plane and building height drawings for each one of the buildings.
That would be the best.
Yep.
Just because you can show that, just show those two elements, yeah.
Right. Did you have any other comments for us?
Anybody have any other comments? No? I do. Okay, so I'll open it up to the public. Anybody wants to speak to, for, or against this application? Now's your chance. No speakers? Okay. So there's a little bit of work cut out for you. Any other comments from TAC?
No, I think we need to see the detailing before we can comment on anything we haven't seen.
Yep. Yep. I'd like to see the detailing on the wall in particular. And the height, and we'll talk about the ordinance in the meantime, and the setbacks and structure of the wall. So I'll take anybody want to make a motion?
I just had a couple of comments, just minor things about the driveway entrance.
Yep.
The post boxes, are they going in behind the utility pole that's there or in front of it? Listen,
We would have to coordinate the final location with USPS, but I think there's room to the side of the pole,
okay,
so it won't be in sight distance.
yep. And
We show it
That
kind
would
of
be on the
behind the
access,
pole,
their
actually.
access road. It wouldn't be on our sidewalk, right?
No, yeah, it would be on their
It'd
property.
be on the side of your access road.
Yeah, it's on the site.
It looks,
property.
I can't really tell from the way it's drawn as an I-beam, what the intent is, but
So it's like a row of post boxes, so it's your rural delivery box, but, all on one cross beam. That's the intent.
yeah, but it's like, it's down by the road, which you would think the mail person would come up to the top and just bring all the mail up to the top instead of down by the street.
Yeah,
6 houses, they would, I would think.
well, the question is he stopping and servicing that section of Maplewood on foot, or would he want to drive up to the end of the driveway?
Well,
And
it's a good question. whether
Chinburg
that's
is going to,
Not, but I think it's a driving run, if I have to remember, but I don't remember exactly.
The other item was that little piece of sidewalk that runs between the current site opening and 678. So that'll be removed, it looks like. You'll put some curbing in there, a radius. I just don't want that radius to stick out farther than the rest of the back of the edge of the sidewalk. So you have a continuous line along the back edge of the sidewalk.
so you want the line of the radius to meet the gutter line or meet the back of sidewalk line?
Meet the back of sidewalk line.
Okay, we'll make sure of that.
And it wasn't clear on the landscape plan how far back the landscape would be from the edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah, we'll get a blow up of that area. It's
Yeah,
kinda,
it's just, again, it's sight line concern, that's all.
yeah. There is a distance from center line, but we'll check that.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to postpone this a month for additional details.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Second. Any comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so it'll be the next TAC meeting?
Yep.
See you then.
I assume that after Thanksgiving is the submission, or early December, given
I
the
don't have
schedule?
the table in front of me, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
likely, but I'm not sure.
It's not the next TAC deadline, but it's usually, what, a week before the meeting,
Well,
resubmission?
let us know by the next TAC deadline where you are, because
Yep.
we'd like to have at least a word on it.
Yep.
Typically, we'd like to get it by that date, so, but
Gotcha.
give us a call.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so second, new business item B, request of Prospect 815 LLC, property located at 815 Lafayette Road, requesting site plan approval for the demolition of the existing building along Sagamore Creek and the construction of 3 4-story, 24-unit multifamily buildings, 72 total units, with first-floor parking. The project will include associated site improvements such as parking, pedestrian access, community space in the form of a park with public access, utilities, stormwater management, lighting, and landscaping. Said property is located on Assessor Map 245, Lot 3, and lies within the Gateway Corridor G1 district. Who's here to speak to this?
Hey, good afternoon. Neil Hansen with Ty and Bonds. Also sitting up here with me is Patrick Kermans at Ty and Bonds.
And FX Bruton and Barabee.
And Ed Hayes and Mike Brown are also here, the owner applicant of the project. Pull up the plans.
I'll pull up the plans, yep.
Thank
You
you.
can give us a thumb drive, right?
No, do not. So this project, we've met with this group before for tech work session. We've also been to planning board for conceptual consultation and met with the Conservation Commission for a site walk and for work session. We also have been to the zoning board and received variances for front lot line build out and primary facade parallel to the front lot line. So all the comments and feedback we've gotten to this point have been incorporated into this submission. So the site is accessed off of Lafayette Road. It's the former WHEB radio station. The development area of the site is the portion closest to Route 1. It's about 4.3 acres of the 19.6 acre site. Go couple.
Got a site plan?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
It's a little slow on here.
So the proposed project is 72 residential units. It'll be in 3 separate buildings. The third building of the site will also have a 1,200 square foot leasing office, which will be an accessory use to the residential development. The site layout that we've come up with for this project has pulled all of the impervious surfaces out of the 100-foot buffer from the Sagamore Creek. There is a wetland buffer impervious surface exhibit that was part of the package that shows those areas. So there's currently about 12,000, just under 12,000 square feet of impervious surface, all the way up to into the 0 to 25-foot buffer, and all that will be removed as part of this project. So coming into the site, there's 3 buildings that run parallel to the creek. There's parking on the first floor of each building. Each building has 24 internal parking spaces with 3 stories of residential units above, as well as some exterior parking along the front facade of all those buildings for a total of 121 spaces for the project. The project is also going to require 2 CUPs. One will be for the development site use, which requires 10% community space. That community space will be a greenway trail within the 100-foot tidal buffer. That trail will be designed as a wood chip path, so again, no impervious surfaces. And then I'll touch on it a little bit later, but there's a substantial landscape and buffer enhancement plan that will be part of this project, restoring those areas that are currently impervious surfaces, as well as some invasives removal. If you go, a couple other things we addressed from TAC work session. One was, or 2 of them were related to fire access. We increased the width of the aisle, the drive aisle through the site to 26 feet, as well as put in the turnaround at the end for the fire trucks. And there's also a fire truck turning exhibit that was part of this package that shows that movement. And then trash collection for each of these buildings. There's dumpsters between buildings 1 and 2 within a fenced enclosure. And then again, at the end of building 3, there's another set, which will be fenced and screened with landscaping as well. Go to the next sheet, please. So next sheet's the grading and drainage plan for the site. So this site was a little bit challenging on the grading perspective. There's a lot of really shallow bedrock on this site, as well as the close proximity to the abutting shopping center parking lot. So we were really tied to grades along that edge of the parking lot, as well as trying to keep the buildings up a little bit to minimize the best we could any ledge removal that will be required for the construction of the building foundations, as well as all the utilities. Stormwater treatment for the site, all will be captured and brought to a detention system along the creek side of the buildings, again, outside the 100-foot buffer. It's just a single 36-inch pipe with an outlet control structure to attenuate peak flows. And then all that will be discharged through a jellyfish filtration unit for treatment prior to discharging off the site. If you go to the next sheet, which is utilities. So we have coordinated with Unitil and Eversource. The Unitil will serve letter was in the package. The Eversource one we have received, but we did not get it before the submission deadline. But we have coordinated those services with both those utility providers and are showing the utilities that they're going to require for this project. And then again, we're showing water and sewer, which had some minor revisions from TAC work session based on some of the comments we received at that meeting. The next sheet, I believe, is the photometric plan. So all the lighting for this project is currently proposed as building mounted. That gives us the lighting levels for the front parking area and the amenity spaces between the buildings. And we purposely did not include any site lighting on the creek side of the buildings. And then we get into the next sheet is the easement plan. So there's an existing access easement through the site to access the radio tower that's up on the top of the hill. That will need to be relocated as part of this project to the center of the drive aisle, and then we'll also need the community space easement as part of this project. Then we get into the landscaping. So landscaping, again, this was significantly enhanced from when we were here the last time. I'm not even sure if we included a conceptual landscape plan, but this was developed based on some of the comments we received from the Conservation Commission during the site walk and the work session. So in the middle of the site there, kind of behind Building 2, is where all of the current buildings and parking areas are within the buffer. So that's where the bulk of the plantings are for that, what is really a restoration area. And then along the kind of behind buildings 1 and 3 is where we get into more of the selective invasives removal. And then there's some grass mixes that are proposed within that 100-foot buffer. I believe those are listed on the prior sheet, native grass mixes, and the idea is to be a low-mow situation inside that 100-foot buffer. And then as you get up closer to the building, along that rear walkway, it'd be more of a lawn type area for the residents, but everything within that buffer would be more natural and sort of lower maintenance type plantings. So that was it for going through the plans. I did want to touch on, we had submitted a traffic study as part of the submission package as well. That will need to go to NHDOT for review, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of the items in there. Part of that, the trip generation for the project, we're expecting 45 trips during the weekday morning peak hour, 52 trips during the weekday afternoon peak hour, And based on the analysis of the study area, all the intersections will continue to operate at the same level of service under build conditions as compared to no build conditions for both the opening year and the 2035 design year. So very minimal impact to traffic in the surrounding area. But again, that will need to go through NHDOT review as well. So now I'd like to get into the comments we received yesterday from planning and just sort of run through those. So the first one is provide truck access to the treatment device for maintenance cleaning. So we'll, based on where it's currently shown on the plans, we'll probably have to look to get that into a better location for maintenance. And we'll also coordinate that with the vendor and see if they have any requirements for access as well, just to make sure we're covered on that. Use either a 4-inch ductile iron or 2-inch water service, not a 3-inch. We'll coordinate with the building design and figure out which way we need to go, either 4 or 2, but we will change it from a 3. Remove planted trees from on top of stormwater pipe and utilities. We'll take a look at the planting plan and make sure we get those moved from any utility conflicts. Tip down ramps with detectable warning devices will be required on either side of the driveway. So we have no issue adding that. Interesting piece on this driveway, and I don't know how we want to address it, is on the south end of the driveway, we have the sidewalk wrapping into the site, which we can easily add a tip down and warning panel. On the north side, there's not actually a receiving sidewalk on that side of the driveway. The curb is set back, and then the sidewalk doesn't pick back up until after the first driveway of the gas station. So I don't know how the best way to address that is, but we can certainly put one on the sidewalk we're tying into. Provide a sewer connection detail showing service connection to AC Main in Lafayette. We can add that detail. Will one jellyfish system be sufficient for treating the entire developed site? Yes, it will be. The peak diversion unit of jellyfish that is specified, we're actually using one of the smaller models that they make. They go up quite a bit larger than we have, so that we will have that size appropriately for treatment. Please consider reducing impervious surfaces where possible and replacing them with a pervious alternative. So again, as I mentioned before, we have pulled all the impervious surfaces out of the 100-foot wetland buffer. And then additionally, the high ledge on this site kind of makes pervious pavers or pervious pavement not really a practical solution for a site like this. Please consider the use of solar on the 3 roofs. That's something we can bring back to the architect and the team and discuss and see if we can do anything with that. Please consider adding additional bicycle parking outside of the ground level garage for public access. We can certainly look to add a couple bike racks in different areas of the site for that use. Under vegetation in sheet C501, add a note that addresses the restricted chemical uses for wetlands and wetland buffers from various sections of the ordinance, and please add that as a note on the landscape plan sheet L101 as well. We are happy to do that. We can make that revision. Please remove the community space from the 0 to 25-foot vegetated buffer. This area should not be utilized by the public due to its environmentally sensitive nature, and it is already considered protected in the zoning ordinance through environmental regulations. Please remove the vegetated 25-foot buffer from the community space calculations as well. So when we were here for TAC work session, you'll recall that we had the community space exhibit we had at that time included the entire salt marsh area. So based on comments from TAC at that time and other feedback from Conservation Commission, we did pull the community space out of that area and just included it in the upland tidal buffer zone. There's also precedent within the city for including the 0 to 25-foot buffer tidal buffer in community space for projects along tidal waters. I think we kind of acknowledge that we're not going to solve this issue here today, and we'd be happy to meet with staff separately to review this further.
Yeah, I can just give you our 2 cents. I mean, what you've done is great in terms of the community space. It's really nice to have that public trail go through there and to utilize the buffer that way. I guess the concern is, whereas the 105 Bartlett and the other Mill Pond sites, we're really restoring a either impervious surface or wetland part of the, a impacted part of the shoreland. This is actually pretty functional, intact in most of this, unless you can show otherwise, and maybe we're missing something, but that's been the concern, is kind of like the salt marsh. It's an area that's protected by the ordinance, so to use it as community spaces, it's an area that's already protected by the ordinance. So I think the problem with this site is that you have that huge salt marsh area that's part of your ownership, and your calculation becomes really high with your community space. So
That's what we were looking at as well. I mean, just
Yeah.
so, everyone understands that, it's leaving us about 9 acres out of roughly 20
Yeah.
of area that isn't impacted
Right.
in terms of that. So, obviously, community space, you don't usually see a project with 2 acres of community space. And, nonetheless, we have a parcel of this size, but, we have basically, in terms of how you would normally think of community space, we should really only have like an acre, but we're providing 2. So
Yeah.
we kind of look at it as a doubling to begin with, so taking that out compounds out a little bit. And I think the ordinance does speak to community, including, natural habitat and things like that, not just legs and
does.
sneakers. So, but that being said, I think what we're saying is we'd like to explore that further and
Okay.
figure this out. We're
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
we'd like to keep it that way, obviously, and we do see it similar to the other projects that we're talking about, particularly if it's a bank, but again, if we can chat about it,
Yeah, I'd be happy
try
to
and
do
figure it
that.
out.
Yeah, I think there's probably options, and looking at, what part of that 25-foot buffer is being restored, and then,
Yep.
and then from there, what else can we look at? I
Yeah.
guess what I'm trying to do is be consistent with what we did with the salt marsh area, is areas that are protected pretty well by the ordinance now probably shouldn't be in the community space area, but I think there's ways we can work it. So
Yeah,
happy to
we'd
talk with you.
like
about
to
it.
have that conversation, because we see it, basically the way I said it, but.
It's a really nice amenity through there, and certainly wouldn't want to lose it, and that's
Right.
not what we're recommending, but.
Right, yep.
Just that portion.
The next one is please provide an easement plan. So we do have an easement plan as part of the set. I think it's sheet 2, C201, which shows the existing relocated access easement and the community space easement that will need to be provided. If there's any other easements that are missing, we can add them to that sheet.
No, I think you just
as
got
well.
a standard condition stuck in there, but.
Okay. And then please put a note on the plans that reads, final alignment of the trail is subject to review and approval by the Planning and Sustainability Director, and any subsequent modification will be subject to the Planning Board approval as a site plan amendment, and we can add that note to the site plan.
Can we talk about whether or not that actually becomes an amendment as opposed to, we were just talking about the trails, right?
So what that note's there because the community space is an easement that the city council has to accept because it becomes part of the city.
Right.
And so that easement doesn't have to go back to the city council, but we want to make sure that
No, and
it's understood that that easement, if you want to change what's in that easement, that you have to go back, in this case, to the planning director.
right, and that's what I'm saying. I don't see that as a problem, but it talks about also being an amendment to the site plan. I mean, I think if.
Well, it comes in as a site plan amendment, so that's what the request is. So if you do this community space area, then you decide, oh, no, we want to move our community space somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
It has to be
I
a site
thought it
plan
was
amendment.
limited to the alignment of the trails as opposed to the alignment of the community space. And it's not a big issue.
Yes, I
but-
don't understand it, what you're saying.
The note's related to the final alignment of the trail within the community space, not the location of the community space itself. Because the intent for locating the trail is to, prior to construction, actually going out there and marking out the path is to avoid cutting down
Right.
trees.
Well, that'll be done as part of your approval process, right? So when you're done with the approval process, you'll know where the trail is.
Yep.
I think all we're saying is if in the future you want to move the trail somewhere else, that you'd have to do a site plan amendment. I don't think a minor adjustment to the trail because a big oak tree grew in it would be the issue. It'd be more if you want to move it to a different part of the site.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
I think we just want to be clear, we're talking about tweaks to the trail and not actually moving the community space area.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, I mean, any move in the community space area has to be a site plan amendment. I guess that's the point. But it doesn't sound like you're worried about that. It's more.
not worried about it, no. We're just looking at the language.
Yeah.
So that was all I had, unless you guys had anything else, we'll happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
If it's appropriate. Do you want to do the public hearing first?
Huh?
You want to do the public hearing first, or?
No, probably better to get the questions out.
Okay. Neil, the sewer inverts,
Yes.
match your crowns
Okay.
for the 6-inch coming out of the two buildings. For some reason, the last building has an 8-inch pipe, not a 6-inch pipe. I think it might
Probably
be
an
a
error.
typo.
Yes.
But match the crowns, please. Did you guys actually do any test pits where the 36-inch storage pipe is going?
Not yet.
Okay, because I'd like you to do some test pits and possibly have that as a perforated pipe.
I
And
think-
maybe put a little extra crushed stone around it so that we can infiltrate around the pipe. And in times of high groundwater, it would be an under drain for the buildings, but the rest of the year, it might be a chance to infiltrate something.
Yeah, I think we had the same thought that once we were able to get out and do some testing, that would be an opportunity for some easy infiltration. So yes,
Right.
we're
So if you could
in
do
agreement.
some test pits in there, see what the soil matrix is like in that spot along that, because it's high enough off the stream that I think that the soil might be okay.
Yeah, I think really the only question mark is probably if there's
some
any high
ledge or
novel
not.
edge, yeah.
Yep, so that's what I really want to see before you come back, okay?
Shanti? Sean, any comments?
I don't think so. I think, I don't know if I asked this before. You do know, I see that you did put you have the van accessible parking, on the upper level. And then where there are more than 20 units per building, I believe you have to have 2% of the units will be accessible.
Yep.
Not just type A, but actually full-on accessible. And maybe you already captured that and I didn't see that. But is that the case? You have like one unit? Oh, okay, yep, okay. Perfect. Yeah. Good, that's the only thing, that's the only question I think that I had. Everything else we covered before. Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, I just had a question about the community path, that walkway that ends in the cul-de-sac. Is it possible to connect that to that non-exclusive access easement? I don't know does the public have any rights to use that?
I don't believe so, no.
No. We just think it would be nice to be able to have a trail keep going off into the.
Yeah, I think the intent is to try and keep the public out of the back of that part of the site.
I didn't know if that non-exclusive access easement allowed them in there or not.
I'm pretty sure it's just for access to the radio tower from whatever entity controls that.
Okay. And the EV charging spaces you have, is that, you have more than enough parking, so it doesn't matter, but would that only be available to people who are using it as a charger, or? It's,
I don't know if officially there's going to be any restrictions on it, but personally, if I see an EV charger, I don't park in that spot. So maybe I'm just too nice.
And the, was it on the site plan, C102, it says that the drive aisle width is 24 feet, but then you have it called out as 26 on the plan, so.
Typo, we'll
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
We'll get that corrected.
And then the last thing was minor, but I think it's on a landscaping plan. What is a shrub? I assume that's a shrub?
Probably.
Okay.
Engineers can't spell, Eric. At least this one can't.
Nice. You gotta point that out in public.
Oh, it's a shrub.
Can't send a text message? No.
didn't make fun of our hip down ramps, so.
Right?
I could have.
Thank you. Number 241 plan
Okay, any other comments
for,
from TAC?
What's going to happen is they're going to ask for partial occupancy.
Okay, so I'll open up to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak to, for, or against this project? Any public comment for this project? Hearing none? We'll continue. Any other comments from TAC? Are we good here? Questions or concerns?
As far as that tactile pad on the other side, I think if it's, as long as it's in the right of way, they could do it, right? On the other side of the gas
Yeah, so I
station.
looked at the Google photo. It's basically the driveway was too small. They didn't actually build a sidewalk it's back far enough, so you just walk across the pavement.
Yeah.
So there should be a tactile pad there, because the mobile driveway, we have the same situation. So there should be we should change that over from asphalt to concrete with actually 2 tactile pads, one for the mobile driveway and one for the new driveway, in my opinion.
Yep. Because it does look like there's one on the far side.
Flushed
So
up.
take out the asphalt that's there,
Yeah.
put in concrete, so you can put tactile pads there for the mobile and for the new development.
Okay.
And then you have to have a tactile pad on the other side by the guardrail. And that all has to meet the new code so you need to look at grading in there. It's gonna be kind of, because you're on that hill, you got guardrail right there, that you might have to move the whole end section back to do it right. So you need to kind of like look at that a little bit and pay attention.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll be a change order in construction.
I think the new ProAg requirements are better, though, where you don't, on the grading.
Just have a look, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. There's a fair amount of things to change here. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to, if it's appropriate, to push this back a month while we do test pits and we do plan cleanup.
Yeah, pretty far along, but I think it still needs a little more. I would agree. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thanks very much.
thanks, everyone.
Month? All
Appreciate
right,
your time.
Thanks, guys.
Blacked out for a second. I asked that because it's the letter.
This it gets in the record. Someone brought it. Good effort. It was handed out to everyone, so. Okay, the next application is letter C, the request of 2422 Lafayette Road Association LLC owner for property located at 2454 Lafayette Road, requesting amended site plan review approval and amended conditional use permit for a new motor vehicle sales office. Said property is located on Assessor Map 273, Lot 3, and lies within the Gateway Corridor G1 district. Who's here to speak to this?
Good afternoon. Chris Mulligan from Boson and Associates on behalf of the applicant. With me to my right is Kelly Webb from the Wilder Group, who is the property manager for this facility. I also have with me Mike Seeger, who's a general manager with Tesla for the New England region, and to my left is Brendan LaFay, who's a fire protection engineer from Tesla. This, I believe, is a fairly straightforward request. We received a special exception from the Board of Adjustment last month to cite a 3,200 square foot motor vehicle sales operation in the mall. It will be the space next door to McKinnon's. The Board of Adjustment approval contained some conditions, one of which was that this be routed through TAC and the Planning Board. We have concurrently filed an application to amend the site plan and the conditional use permit with the Planning Board. But what we need is the conditional use permit was granted, I believe, in 2021 for parking. The site, as it stands, has 795 parking spaces. Based on the parking demand analysis that was done when the conditional use permit was approved, 654 spaces are needed for this site. What we are proposing with this plan is dedicating two specific spaces to this use for EV chargers and for Tesla models that'll be available for test drives. So that's really the only change to the site. The existing retail space will be configured so that there will be between 2 and 3 vehicles indoors. Those will be swapped out on an infrequent basis, probably less than a half dozen times a year. In order to get them in and out, there will be a temporary ramp that'll be utilized to get over the curb and into the space. That will be removed and stored inside. But the site plan, the last amendment to the site plan was approved in May of 2022. We've provided copies of that approved site plan in your packet. Really, again, I think the only significant change to the site plan will be the introduction of these 2 dedicated spaces that'll have EV chargers. But other than that, I think it's really self-explanatory and a very minor change. So I don't really have a whole lot more unless you have questions for me.
Just minor.
Yes, please.
Did you guys cross-check where the underground storage system is for the parking lot?
We did
where
not.
you plan these chargers, because it's right in that immediate area somewhere. So there's gigantic voids. under the
Stormwater?
park- Yeah, there's stormwater chambers underneath the parking lot. That's how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, and I see there's a tree right there, so maybe it's out of the area, but it's right there. So just cross-check that before you start digging,
Absolutely.
because it won't show up and it won't get dig safed, and you won't know about it until there's a hole in the parking lot.
Okay, I mean, Ty and Bond designed it, I'm assuming, so
Yes,
they
did.
will have detail on it. Okay,
Durango.
we can confirm that.
Yep.
But you're saying DigSafe does not pick that up?
No, they
Okay,
didn't pick
yeah.
it up at all.
Got
Nope.
it.
This is for the new
It's for
charger?
the whole parking lot drains into this one thing underground.
Right,
and
but
then
the
it comes-
putting the charger in would
Right, but you have to
require
run
you to
conduit.
dig it up.
Right. So,
Yeah, we'll get,
and it might be fun, but
Yeah,
it's just,
understood.
it's right there. I know it's outside the can somewhere, so.
got it. Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, the cars getting in and out, you said there's going to be a portable ramp, but one of the plans shows a new ramp. Is it, wasn't sure what was happening there. Are you constructing a new tip-down ramp?
No, it's a portable unit.
Okay, because one of these plans, it says, I don't know how to identify it. The one that shows the 2 cars inside the building has a note in red that says new curb ramp by LL.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. That's the architect's plan that we initially submitted to the Board of Adjustment to give them an idea of what the interior was going to look like. But that's not there will not be a new curb cut.
Anything from building inspector or fire?
I don't know right now, I mean, I don't, you know, I don't really, I mean, maybe I'm missing it, I don't know what the, you have to look at the overall type of construction, the area, the required separation between the vehicle showroom and the adjacent spaces. I don't know if you went, that far at this point. I don't think you need to either. I think that the use right now is what they're looking for approval, and then they will cross the bridge for inspection review and fire review down the road. Happy to see there's a.
That's not here.
That's
That's-
why I'm
Yeah.
here, is in case we had any of those questions early on, but I'll be working closely, with you and your team to ensure that we address all those items properly.
Yeah, so just, I'm happy to see that you have, an FPE on board at this early stage, as it should make things easy, easier down the road. But, we'd need to look at all those things, so, which they're not on the plans right now.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. I mean, this is an amended site plan and a conditional use permit for the parking to be amended as well.
That's correct.
So we'd look at doing those together, but first I'll see if there's any public comment. Anybody here to speak to, for, or against this application? Okay, seeing no public comment. So what we're looking for is a motion. I think we can just do them together, but it's to amend the site plan approval and amend the conditional use permit for the new motor vehicle sales office.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, chair votes aye. Okay, so you're all set for that, and you go on to the planning board.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to working with you. Yeah, you too.
I do, yeah. Let's follow up my card. Yeah. You guys have been through it before, and this will be a first for us.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be,
All right. Next application is for the request of Maureen Oakham and Michael A. Valinsky, owners, for property located at 1155 Sagamore Avenue, requesting site plan review approval for the demolition of the existing building and construction of a 4-unit residential condominium with associated paving, stormwater, lighting, utilities, and landscaping. Said property is located on Assessor Map 224, Lot 18, and lies within the mixed residential office MRO district. Here to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Chagnon from Abbott Engineering. Haley Ward here with the applicant, Thomas Frangos. We did come to a workshop previously and got some feedback for this project, but going through the project briefly, the site is 1155 Sagamore Avenue. There's currently a structure which has various uses, multifamily, I believe, and has had other uses in the past, such as a daycare. It is in a mixed-use zone, so business is allowed, but this proposal is to just simply convert the site into a 4-unit residential and residential-only condominium. The existing building would be removed, and the proposed townhouse-style construction of a 4-unit building would take place. So there's,
Sorry.
that's okay, cover sheet, an existing conditions plan, and then the site plan showing the proposal. The original, at the workshop, we had shown parking in front of the building, but that's not allowed under ordinance, so we've moved the parking spaces to be on the right side of the drive aisle across from the garage entrances. There are garage spaces in the units, so there's plenty of parking for the proposed use, with a turnout at the end for turning around. The site meets the coverage calculations and setbacks, and those tables are on this sheet. The next sheet shows a landscape design. Terrence Parker from Terra Firma Landscape provided a landscape design. And just to point out, it does include the rain garden mix, which is the under the plant schedule on the top left. He's got some plantings along the northerly property line, some plantings on the south, but there is a large planted area on the abutting property immediately adjacent, some trees in the front and at the back. The next plan is details showing planting details and instructions that we have. Excuse me. Grading and erosion control. The drainage will be directed to a rain garden on the left or northwest portion of the property, and that will provide the mitigation for the increased coverage. The full drainage analysis was included in the application package, showing that we're not increasing stormwater runoff. And then there's a utility plan. There's a water line on this side of Sagamore Avenue, which will provide water service. We're showing a connection underground with a pole-mounted transformer. The tech workshop, we had a pad-mounted transformer, and the initial information from Eversource is that we probably wouldn't need that, but they've come back and said we will need a pad-mounted transformer, so we'll be going back to that design, which just simply puts a transformer to the right of the driveway in before that striped location, as we had shown in the previous plan. So then the conduit is run to the same location. Sewer connection is over an existing low-pressure sewer stub that was left when the C-Star condominium site was developed to the south. In your packet is material from E1 that there was a question about the capacity of that line. It does have enough capacity to handle this proposed 4-unit building. And then I think the rest of the sheets are just the standard details. I'm going to pass out some information that addresses the comments that we received from staff.
Dave, will you keep those moving? Thanks.
So what you have are the plans that we revised to address the comments, and the cover letter repeating the comments, and I'll go through those if it's appropriate at this time.
Please.
The city will need our standard leak valve and meter easement for the private water system. We added note 9 on sheet C4 that covers that requirement, and obviously you would move this forward with that being a condition of approval. Run one 4-inch line from Sagamore and branch off for each unit. I'm assuming that refers to the water services, but the applicant would like to serve the individual units with individual services.
Off of the 4-inch line.
Well, when we came to TAC,
You really don't want 4 taps off of Sagamore Avenue.
okay. So would you want it, that 4-inch line would be in it?
These condos are apartments,
They're condos.
so they can have individual meters.
Yep.
Would that be in a metering room or in each individual unit?
So we added a meter room on the right-hand or east side of the building.
Yeah. That's where the fire suppression system is going to enter to?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. So it'd be an exterior entrance.
So you'd run one water line into the metering room?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said it's not labeled as such, but I thought...
So it's labeled on the other sheet, on sheet C4, the utility plan.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
it says, has been added to sheet C2 and labeled on the utility plan.
Yeah, it's labeled on sheet 4.
Yeah.
We'll also label it on
Yep.
C2 going forward.
Okay.
But
These don't have basements, right?
they don't, they're slab on grade.
Okay, so would you run so you would have a metering room and then you would run a sleeve to
Under
each
the-
particular unit under the slab so that you could replace the water line if you need to through the sleeve?
I'm not so sure if we can't,
Because
after
you don't
the
want to go
meter.
through the ceilings from unit to unit to unit. That seems to be a problem.
I don't know that that's not allowed. I know electric, it's not allowed, but
Right, we talked about
water.
It's certainly not allowed for very good reasons.
For water.
Well, I think water would be a fire stopping, sleeve that would be installed.
But if somebody doesn't pay their heating bill, the water freezes.
What's that?
If someone doesn't pay their heating bill, the water
Yeah,
freezes.
and somebody could get into their ceiling and tap into somebody else's
Yes.
water. I mean, it's not a good idea,
So,
for sure.
For very good reasons.
Yep.
Slab, sleeve, under the units,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Yep.
I agree, yeah.
Thank you.
So it's probably makes just as much sense to run the 4-inch line down the front and tap off.
Yeah, or, a 2-inch line might work too. You have to tell
Yeah.
us what size line you want.
Right. Yeah, probably a 2-inch is fine. Just run a 2-inch and then tap off the 2-inch, yeah.
You need to tell us what size you want. And you can split them up in the metering room, which will be heated, of course. It'll have a electric heat or something in there.
We could also run it down the front, tap it, and then each individual unit has a surface.
But you're gonna have a fire suppression room anyway,
Right.
so you might as well throw everything in the same, because that has to be heated,
Yes,
so.
but then it would save the underslab runs.
Okay.
Okay, we'll kick that around, gotcha.
Okay,
So we got the heated water meter and sprinkler room,
yeah.
shown C2. So a duplex pump for the common pump system, we put a note on D2, detail 1, that will provide those drawings for review and approval.
An alarm system,
Excuse me?
with an alarm system,
With an alarm system. It says
little
that.
sign that
Yep.
says what it is, because they're not gonna know.
Yep.
Nobody's gonna know when the light goes off what it means, because they're not in the sewer business.
Okay.
So, little light, little sign,
Yep, little exterior.
right, don't flush. Right, right.
Well, if you do a duplex system, you can still flush in the meantime.
But yeah, but you're still gonna have an alarm.
Yep. Yep, call your service.
Yep.
There were test pits on the sheet. So the test pit locations are shown, but yes, we will provide a cross-section. The system is in a cut, so it won't have a lot of notes about fill.
Yeah,
And
so there's a building there now, it's where the shed is?
there's a couple of small sheds in the back that will be removed.
So do we know that there's no ledge there?
Yes.
Do a test pit right there? Test pit 1. Where is it?
2 test pits.
Where's the log?
The logs are on the existing condition plan.
Oh, there they are, okay, test pit 1. Good. Fine sandy loam, excellent. Okay, so you're gonna do a cross-section. Very
Yep,
good.
we can do a
And
cross-section.
then, as you know, there's been a very long history of water not draining properly off this site, so I think your grading plan should be a little more beefed up. Maybe some leaders to show which way things are supposed to drain, and maybe some spot grades around the building. Please?
Sure. Yeah, I know you had
Like,
a comment on that
All
swale.
water
that-
coming off that backside, that it goes through that swale line and into the rain garden, and not, because the 33 contour is right there on both sides, so I'm gonna make sure the water goes in the rain garden and not short-circuited down away from it. So just like a couple of dashed, with the little drainage arrows. So when Vincent's out there looking at it, it's very clear what the intent was on the design. Very helpful if you could do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dave, were you talking about the gutter system as well? That would all go into the rain garden?
I don't think there is a gutter system. I think it just kind of falls off the
Correct.
side and then goes along the grass.
Got it.
Yes, that's.
Okay.
The comment about foundation drains of sump pumps is just the slab on grade, no gutters. Green building checklist is needed. The architect will provide that. Hopefully, if we get moved forward, for the planning board to review. Planting schedule and irrigation plan with the landscape plan. So there is a planting schedule on the landscape plan. It's in the top left corner. And then we put note 8 on sheet C4 regarding irrigation, and the note just says that in the revised version, irrigation will be provided on a separate metered service. Designs of irrigation will be provided by the landscape contractor at the time of construction. Rain garden detail sheet, we can add that. I don't know what other details would be needed, if that was your comment, Dave, or someone else's. Was a planting detail
Probably
comment?
is. I don't think I saw a detail.
The rain garden detail?
Yeah, just like the whole media.
I think that was mine, yeah.
Well, that's just the layering, how they're gonna build it.
Just the
Yeah.
cross-section of it.
Right. And,
Cross-section.
Yep.
don't compact the bottom.
I think because it's in
Back
cut,
end.
Use the media.
Yeah.
I think because it's in cut, we didn't, and it's a gravelly soil, but we'll definitely provide a detail.
Yeah. Great.
Please consider reducing impervious surfaces where possible. We're not sure there's a lot of opportunities. We think we did a tight design and tried to conserve pavement. I don't know if there's some ideas that you want to throw at us, but that's a comment. And then an easement plan. So, getting back to the water line, I guess the 2-inch, Dave, would be private, or that would
It's
be
definitely
city?
private, yeah, but we're still going to want to be able to get to the fire room. We would have our own key. We would have an easement that allows us to have our own key and to go in there anytime we felt we needed to.
All right, so you'd want an access plan, an access easement.
Yeah. So it's the
It would be a
valve turning,
Yep,
leak detection.
that's a blanket easement, but we should show an access easement.
Yeah.
Yeah, wherever the line is, it should be shown. I mean, I don't know that you need a whole plan set if it's just one easement on the property, but is that the only easement there?
Correct.
Deed.
It's the only easement.
There's no existing easements.
That's
Other
sewer.
than the sidewalk easement,
Correct,
Oh, right.
yes.
which already exists.
Which has been recorded and exists.
Yep.
And the sidewalk was constructed.
I don't know.
Is there any
That-
other
that depends.
questions?
Do you have any questions about that? Do they need an easement plan for that one easement? Vince?
It's just a deed.
The sewer easement, that's existing, isn't it?
That's the neighboring.
That goes to the property line, and then they're attaching a service to it. That is existing, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And the sidewalk is existing as well.
Right.
I mean, ordinarily, we don't get an easement plan just for the water access.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
thinking.
usually known in the plan, though.
Yep. Yep, we added a note. We'll add a note about, is that, yeah. Part of the standard leak valve and meter easement is access is included, I would imagine, correct? Part of that. Okay.
Questions? Anybody else? Eric?
Just one comment about the site driveway, the sight lines. Looks like that vegetation to the north on the property line may be hindering sight lines, but that's something you'll have to satisfy DOT's sight line requirements on, because that's state highway. So they'll-
The adjacent property?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think DOT requires 400 feet of sight lines.
It is an existing curb cut. We've tried to stay as close as we can to that, and so we'll be working with DOT. That would be a condition of approval. I know that this site has a driveway permit from when it was proposed as a daycare. I'm sure, though, that they're gonna make us do a new driveway permit,
Possibly.
most likely, but this was talked about a lot, these three driveways, when we did C-Star.
Any other comments? Dave? John or Shanti?
Nope.
You guys?
Are we asking for a third-party inspector in this project? There's a note here on the utility plan, 31. Third-party utility installation inspections shall be required.
That's a holdover note. If you don't need it for this one, then we'll be glad to take it off.
No?
I don't think so. This isn't that complicated.
Anything else, Vince? Good. Okay. Open up to the public. Anybody want to speak to or against this application?
There's a couple
Okay, so just one at a time, come up. You can sit here or sit where John was at the microphone. Pull the microphone closely. If you could just say your name and address for the record.
Sure will.
And then go ahead.
Sure. My name is Danica Thompson, and I live at 1163 Sagamore. I'm a butter. I'm in Unit 10. I'm part of the Sea Star Cove Homeowners Association, and I'd like this body to know that I'm speaking with the permission of our Homeowners Association, Sea Star Cove. I just recently stepped off the board as secretary, where I served 5 years. I served on the board with the development of 1169, now known as Wentworth Landing. As a community and a board, we worked cooperatively with the developer of Wentworth Landing to develop a comprehensive stormwater plan, landscape plan, and joint approval of home locations to protect the interests of not only the development, but the development of us, our development, and the proposed development, and then the surrounding area. I want to come out and say we do not object to this land being developed. We do, however, share some concerns of the land use and the intensity being proposed. At our homeowners meeting on Sunday, we met to understand and discuss this project, and we had several questions come out of that meeting, and we hope this body will help us understand those questions. One of the concerns from our HOA is there currently is a fence dividing the property currently. This site plan, there is no fence depicted. We would request that this body requires on the site plan a fence the same height of what it is at 6 feet, either made from redwood or teak, something of a material that has longevity. We're asking it for it to be like a board-on-board style of something decorative. This site is right on our property line, so we're looking for something to really help protect both of our interests. We ask that the fence fully enclose the patios and continue the full length of the property down towards Sea Star Cove, the homes of Sea Star Cove, continuing the length of the nature path. So, we're asking this because we're sensitive to dogs. The current owners now have had dogs roaming in our neighborhood, and they have aggressively encountered us. So we want to make sure that we're providing something decorative, but also protection from roaming animals. I think you all can understand that. Additional concern from the site plan relies on a fire hydrant. Sea Star Cove, paid to install that. We own it, we maintain it. We had to spend several $1,000s last year to repair it. It absolutely makes sense that the fire department would have full use of this hydrant in an emergency. We're asking you, this body, should the developer be required to put in their own hydrant for their use, or should the city take ownership of ours? An additional concern from our HOA is the need to review speed limits and controls on Sagamore Avenue as residential expansion is continuing from Sagamore Creek to the traffic circle in Rye. The additional traffic on Sagamore Avenue, as you all know, is palpable. I submit these concerns as a representative of our community and ask that attention and/or explanation be given to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have a comment, yes.
Yep. You could just state your name and address.
Good afternoon, I'm Jonathan Mosier. My address is 1163 Sagamore Ave in apartment 20. I'm also an official abutter. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an abutter, and am addressing a concern, really some requests for guidance from this committee given the proposed site plan. So our association has been made aware of a site plan that was reviewed by a committee in Portsmouth and is in the registry for the County of Rockingham from 1997, suggesting a lot size of 29,000 673 square feet, and we've now received an additional site plan currently proposed at, I think, 30,254 or 64. And I know the lot, the assessment and the assessor's office suggests it's in the 30,000 range. So part of our concern and my concern as an abutter is just figuring out what the accurate lot size is, and if there has been a change in the lot size for the currently proposed site plan, if this committee might recommend that we conduct our own land assessment to ensure where that additional 328 square feet came from. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay. We'll close the public comment. Is there any more questions for the applicant?
Yes. You'd like the chance to speak again?
Sure.
Obvious. So, just taking them in order, doesn't say it on the plan, but the applicant is willing to keep that existing fence. It should have said that. The association, I think, just said that that's their preferred alternative, is to keep the fence.
Yep.
And they suggested that it go further. Maybe you can go to the landscape plan.
And I'm right here, I can help you delineate what it is the association would like.
Well, if I misspeak about what you just said, then certainly please correct me.
No, I won't. I mean, I will.
So Terrence's plan does have the 6-foot wood privacy fence. It's above, it's about halfway up. In the street there, Peter, it says 6-foot privacy fence. So the intention is to keep that. The applicant is here, so.
Yeah, can you show me where it begins and where it ends? Because honestly, I don't, this is very Greek information to me, so.
It's just a label on a line.
Yep.
The line goes the whole
So if
length.
you go to the existing conditions plan, it's clear where it begins and ends?
It might be clear to you all, but can you help me just? can you
Yes, we're
point
going there to
that
show
one?
you.
We're
Yeah.
trying to get that plan open, if I can get there.
Where's the existing conditions?
And where's the existing the site plan?
It's in the plan set. It's the first sheet in the plan set, it's existing conditions and demolition. So it's before that.
Funny how it got bookmarked. Didn't label that one. Okay, here it is.
Yeah. So the fence now runs from the corner by the hydrant. I think it's pretty close to the hydrant, and you can correct me on that.
Yeah,
but-
it runs the whole back end
Right.
of the nature path, and then it rounds the corner, and then it comes up just beyond, like the larger part of the landscaping area.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll see
Yeah.
it there. Yep.
Yep,
Right
so
here?
it goes up to, no, the sewer, it ends where the sewer easement comes up, Peter, that.
Right here?
Yeah, right, just a little bit further over, and then there's it says chicken wire fence that connects to the building. The current owner has had dog run problems, and he's not going to be the future owner, so.
Right.
And then, I believe she said it runs down to the, along the private driveway, and then takes a right turn for a piece. Is that correct?
Yeah, it doesn't enclose the full back end of the nature trail, but we are asking that it will or should.
Sure, so I don't think that's a problem for,
And
is that a
then we're
problem?
asking for it to just tie into the last unit of the proposed site, the unit that you. on
So
the
if we could
landscape
go
plan,
back
see that?
So
to the-
I guess I feel like this isn't really the purview of the site review approval. It sounds like it's something that the neighbor's willing to do, and you guys might be able to talk about it offline. Is that, we don't probably need to get in the middle of where you put the fence and how it looks and all that.
Right.
I agree. It sounds like they're willing to, it sounds like they're willing, so
Sounds like
that you
they're
can have
willing
an
to do it, but-
offline conversation, that'd be great.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the fire hydrant shouldn't be an issue for this application. The fire department's here. The site would be on its own, and the fire department would service it from, I would imagine, the infrastructure that's in Sagamore Avenue. The speed limits is not a function of what we're doing here today, although we appreciate and understand those concerns. And then the property survey update question. So the gentleman is referring, I believe, to the site plan that was prepared and recorded for the daycare back in 1996, and it has a different lot area than the current survey, and the difference is just that the site plan survey is older and was based on a rough idea of the property line so that the site plan would go forward. So you have a stamped survey plan with an area. I don't think there's any need to hire another surveyor.
Who's the original surveyor? Do you
I
know?
was.
Well, that's embarrassing.
It is. But in the day you're doing site plans, you don't get surveys on all your site plans. You don't get surveys on all your variance plans.
Right.
So, to do a site plan, you don't need to have a
So the
full
newer
property
one is a
survey.
surveyed plan, the older one's just a reference.
Rough survey plan. It has a
Off
surveyor
a tax
stamp.
map or whatever.
Yeah, it's a rougher one because it was just for plan approval of the
Wasn't
use.
required. Yep.
So it wasn't actually a survey.
Wasn't a
In
stamp
other words, certified by a surveyor.
It has
The
my
one-
stamp on it, but it wasn't prepared as the primary use of it wasn't a property survey.
It was for
Primary
a
use
site,
Was for site development.
right. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else from the committee? Any other questions of the applicant? Any other discussion? Ready for a motion? We have enough to go on here? Seems like from a planning standpoint, I don't have any issues. I don't have any concerns, I think, that need to come back from me to postpone it, but if there's things that need to be done from you guys' standpoint.
Did we see any elevations at all, or doesn't really matter, I guess? There were no.
Yeah, they're in the set.
They're
Oh,
in there,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
none
They're in the
of mine,
plan
I
set.
guess, for some reason, I didn't,
I thought they were.
I scrolled through it, and,
Yeah, they weren't with the plans, but they're a separate attachment.
oh, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're okay, yeah.
Yeah. And they are,
I don't think I have them here.
No.
I didn't
it's not
see
in
any.
there.
Not in here.
Is there an issue?
Was that,
Just because you want to see them?
usually we get elevations with a,
Well, I agree.
right,
Yeah, we usually do.
I know they were the same ones that we brought
We would
to
ask
the
to get them from planning
workshop.
board, unless you want them, we can bring them back and say,
No, I don't, I'll see him eventually, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would imagine
and I
the
do
planning
think
board,
you should put that in your planning board packet.
right.
Yeah.
That's why I
Good
brought it
point.
up, because
Yep.
planning board's
Yep,
gonna
for
wanna
sure.
see him.
We should have that.
So speaking selfishly for myself, I would like to see the things that we talked about today on a plan
I agree.
before
That's
I
good.
recommend that it goes to the planning board. Now, that can happen after the fact if everybody else thinks it's okay. The things are minor, but there are things that have to be changed before it can go to the planning board.
So
We
I
can
guess,
also, sorry.
I guess I would say, we've had trouble with that in the past, because everybody's gonna find the time. It's easier in some ways to postpone it to the next meeting, everything gets brought together and you get it, but if you feel like it doesn't rise to the level of needing that, then
I mean, there are several
it's
things.
your call on
It's
your,
just,
your motion. So I'll let you decide. If you wanna let them provide it at a later date, or wait till the next meeting.
Are you comfortable with providing that in the next week and then can be reviewed? I know you do that sometimes, but.
If you got it in the next week, would that be enough time?
If I got it in the next 2 weeks, certainly fine.
Okay. So, sounds like you're gonna make a motion.
Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion to move this on preliminarily based on a final DPW review before it goes on to the planning board agenda, based on the plans getting to me in a timely fashion so that I have time to look at them.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And if you could, in the meantime, make sure that the neighbors and the engineer looks at the limits of the fencing and agrees that, so that's all shown on the plan correctly, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll be looking for a report back from DPW, John, so make sure you give them enough time to get it back to planning so they can get it in planning's packet. If they have concerns, they're going to postpone it. So, proceed. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Oh,
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Motion to
Is adjourned.
adjourn.